Okay, this is Paulie the Loud Talker, broadcasting from right online in beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada, or Nevada, depending on where you're from, at the Venetian. This has been an outstanding event. I have got the one and only Anita Moncrief here with me. Anita, thanks for joining us again.
Thanks for having me on.
So good to see you. Last time I saw you was in New Orleans.
Yes.
And you've been a busy girl since then. Tell me about what you got working on right now.
Yes. Well, we just launched our new site, emergingcorruption.com, today. We released the Obama donor list, and we're going to file an official FEC complaint against the administration and ACORN for illicit coordination. And besides that, I'm now the national spokesperson for the Patriot Caucus.
Fantastic. Who would have thought a year ago, with the way your life was going, you'd be announcing that you released the president's donations, a donor list, and all these things going on? Your life has been a whirlwind.
Yes, it's been really crazy, but it's been great. I've met a lot of wonderful people, and I feel like the movement has only gotten stronger the more that we've been all working towards this common goal, which is November right now.
Exactly. So tell me more about the website, what your goals of the project are specifically.
Well, Emerging Corruption is not only a website that's going to do investigative journalism. We're also going to support new and emerging conservative writers. That means that the days of the tip jar on the website should be gone.
Yeah.
We want to make sure that their projects are funded. They can get to conferences like CPAC and write online. And if they have any type of long-term investigative journalism goals, we want to be there to make sure that they have the money to do it and money to get their site together. So we're going to basically act as a sponsor for these different conservative writers and bloggers.
And now, do you have sponsors yourself that are helping to make those funds happen?
Yes, that's what we're working on right now. We're fundraising entirely for scholarships for our writers. We've got writers such as Warner Todd Houston, Carol Greenberg, and Babe Huggett. Todd and Carol, and Babe do the Life, Liberty, and the Pursuit of Conservatism. You have
Fantastic.
to fix it up for me.
There you go. That's it. We can fix that for you. So you've got, the goal of funding writers to get to these events is a very conservative goal. It's about getting folks that couldn't get there otherwise to get there and be heard, get their message out. I wouldn't be here in Vegas if it wasn't for Americans for Prosperity. They sponsored my trip based on some activity at the last event, and it's groups like these true grassroots groups helping folks get out there. They're going to make the difference, because we're not a George Soros funded, business funded, astroturfing group. We are truly grassroots.
Exactly.
And so it's amazing that you've got this going on, and the idea is outstanding. How can we find you? Again, the domain name that your website's at?
It's emergingcorruption.com.
Emergingcorruption.com. What else is going on, Nathan? You've got a lot going on in your life. What else you got planned?
Well, in the next few weeks, I'm going to start working with the Liberty First PAC and the Patriot Caucus to see what we can do. I've just talked to Michelle Bachmann about coming to speak in front of her Tea Party caucus. Fantastic. And just kind of raise awareness of the concerns of the grassroots. Now, and everything is gearing up towards November 2010.
That's right. So then what happens after November? So let's say we get the House back. So now we got control of the money. But now, in my opinion, I think the left really starts fighting hard. So what do we got to do once they start fighting?
2 words: subpoena power.
There you go, subpoena power. I think. I'm curious now, because you're releasing the donor records, and what we're learning a lot, I've seen in the past week or two in the news, is the transparency that we were promised isn't really there.
No,
it's not there, and we're learning that the Freedom of Information Acts are being denied based on party affiliation, or perhaps race, or geographic location. So, do you foresee any legal battles against your new organization?
They could happen, and I do want you to know that there is a lot that we haven't put out there yet, and we're waiting on conservatives to take over the House, because we'll be willing to work with any type of criminal investigation into the Obama administration and its activities concerning ACORN.
Now, that's a great segue, because that was my next question. What has been your involvement with the lawsuits around ACORN and all the things? What's the latest on that national story?
Well, besides the one where ACORN sued me for $5 million and ended up backing out right before discovery, I know that they've been going after conservative activists like James and Hannah, and I really think that's only because they want to play victim, and that's something that people should be aware of. They're using this video scandal in order to make ACORN look like it was an innocent victim in all of this. Please don't be fooled by that. James and Hannah did a wonderful job in getting out there and exposing exactly what ACORN's about, and we need to make sure that we are supporting them. If you go to Breitbart's site, there I think there's a link there for their legal defense funds.
Now, speaking of Breitbart and other scandals, Shirley Sherrod has had a lot of press lately. I'd love to get your take on that situation.
I think that people should never jump to conclusions without the full story. When I looked at that video, I knew that it had stopped at a certain point. Anyone, especially her supervisors, should want to figure out what happened after that video stopped. But instead, they bowed to pressure because they were afraid, because they knew that what was going on there, some of that could be considered racism. So in order to be able to keep pushing the racist button on the right, they had to go ahead and quickly squash this. But by doing that, they made it into a much larger story.
They did, by acting stupidly. And I tend to think that the president and a lot of folks are apologizing stupidly. I think that they acted too quickly to condemn her. And the NAACP had the video. It's their video. They knew what it contained. So they could have come out and said, here's the content, but instead they fired her. And we know that no matter what the left says, that she had stepped down prior to Bill O'Reilly ever discussing this on TV. It was discussed internally for them to research it, but they did not bring it up on the news until after she had already stepped down. So the accusations of the left saying that Fox did this and they should be sued and blah, 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 are silly. But I think too many folks are also knee-jerking again to apologize to her, largely because she's a black victim. I think if it was a white person who had done this, I think the double standard is in play. And one of the things I was talking to Kevin Jackson about earlier is much of today's black youth doesn't really have a true grasp of the horrible racism that someone like Shirley Sherrod went through. I can't grasp the pain of the protests she went through, and being a teenager in the 60s, the most racially volatile time in the past decade, past century, and then having her father killed and no punishment whatsoever. The reason she has certain opinions are certainly based on that experience. I think today's youth has never really had that. Unless they have a grandma or something like that, and maybe there's a personal family story like Shirley's, they don't truly understand the pain that she has gone through, yet they still jump on that victimhood, that racism, the man holding me down mentality, and look to Democrats for the handouts. Whereas I think you've seen the light. In our last interview, you said how you've seen the light, how the Democrats are really enabling the pushing down of black America. What can we do to get the word out to the black youth of America? I'm talking junior high school age, college age, to get them educated and to have that epiphany that you had when you realized the truth. What can we do to get that message out there?
Well, it's kind of twofold. You know, sometimes you can look at going into the schools, but honestly, I think you have to, at this point, you have to look at the parents, too. I would suggest reaching out through some of these welfare programs or whatever, because they're modeling or they're emulating what their parents are doing. If their parents are on welfare, they're more than likely to end up on Section 8, on welfare or whatever, because this is their role models. We have to be able to show that conservatism is something that will allow them to get up and be proud of themselves and get out there and work. They have to be willing to do it, though. And that's the hard part. I like what Kevin Jackson's been doing with those billboards that are going across the country, educating blacks, because they don't know history.
They don't.
And and liberals have done that on purpose because they want to keep them uneducated and to keep them down. So the system that they've done is where a black child may not get the same type of education as, say, a Latino child, but they will teach a Latino child English because they need for them to have that type of identification with America. I was reading a study where they said that they wanted to make immigrants fight to become Americans because most immigrants did not want to become Americans because of loyalty for their country. So they made it an issue where they had to choose to be American. So that's where the whole immigration issue comes in, is that they're making it a contentious issue. So these people will feel like they have to become Americans to protect their rights or whatever. This is all of a strategy done by the liberals.
Right. So they are enabling the bad behavior, like a woman that enables her alcoholic husband to continue beating her without taking the very difficult yet strong step to leave or defend yourself. I think doing what's right is often really hard.
Exactly.
And so it's hard to say, geez, I could work hard to educate myself. I could move, or I could stay here and just deal with this lifestyle. So you're right. So many folks are a product of their parents, if they're fortunate enough to have two parents. But if they have the one parent, it's even more difficult. So
the situation for black people could be changed within a relatively few years if people wanted it to.
Yes.
But that means that there would not be a place for Democrats in their social programs.
Yes.
Therefore, they're not willing to let that happen.
Exactly right.